thank you first to Professor Rajkumar, who's joined us for this fireside chat. Now, it's so apt to be having this discussion soon after the session which Professor Atul has presented on the global landscape of higher education institutions coming into India. And what our session title is, just so that we set the tone, it says, the session title exactly says, who builds India's next? Architecting India's own Ivy League. Now, when I seen this title and we do a quick search on the term Ivy League, these were institutions primarily they are from the US. They were founded between 1700s to 1800s. And that was a term used for a sports association, which was the origin of where the term Ivy League came. But today we use the Ivy League as the premier institutions or the global institutions. And of course, when we refer to them in the current context, we're looking at the top 100 or top 200 for those who in the room who like rankings or don't like rankings. I think there is some reference to them through this term Ivy League. So Professor Raj, my first question to you or comment to you is, in the recent week, India has developed its own air quality framework indicator because the international metrics didn't really capture what was happening in India. So first is, do we really need to aspire to build an Ivy League kind of an institution in India, or does India need something with its own flavor?
Thank you so much, Ashwin, and it's so wonderful to be here. Congratulations, Digi and Hemant and all others who are here. I'm so happy to see old friends, including Atul and Jeetu Mishra and Siddharth and so many others. So let me begin by saying that, I think, Ashwin, there are histories of these evolutions and terminologies and designations, and the Ivy League terminology is actually a historical accident. It never was intended to be formulated for anything academic in the first place. It was a totally different something related to sports league coming together. And then over the years, it acquired its own flavor and presence, and some of the world's top universities, including in the United States, such as MIT and Stanford, are not even part of Ivy League. So first of all, we should be very conscious of the fact that mimicking the West or East or any part of the world is not the best way to do what we think is the right thing to do. We should be looking at models around the world, we should be looking at experiences around the world, but we don't need to neither accept something that happens and happened elsewhere, nor should we reject because it happened elsewhere. I think both are problematic, and I've historically I've told, and I think in our country, at least at the level of our leadership, including no less than our Prime Minister, he's very conscious of the fact that we should not be reluctant to accept global benchmarks. So for example, you know very well, at least 10-15 years ago in this country, we were so dismissive of international rankings, be it QS or Times Higher Education. The big public institutions in this country were dismissive. They would not participate in these rankings. They even told that some of these are global conspiracies to bring India down. But no less than our Prime Minister, but even the then President, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, and successive ministers and others, and the wider establishment have not only embraced rankings, but you have yourself had the opportunity to meet the Honorable Prime Minister along with your head multiple times, where he has led the effort that Indian universities need to be benchmarked internationally. And it's not going to help if we try to tell you, listen, we need to change your methodology so that more Indian universities come on top. The methodology, and same thing has happened with the, again, by our Prime Minister's own effort. If you look at the World Bank Better Business Index, there also India changed several of its regulatory and legal and other frameworks to ensure that we are able to benchmark ourselves internationally. So my first point is that Ivy League designation is not the best way to do, but benchmarking ourselves on the basis of well-established international standards in education is a better way to do, and that's exactly what rankings end up doing. And we should be rather focusing on that model.
So in the current context, and I'll just use rankings as the reference. I'm not saying rankings are the right measure.
Yeah.
Now, when we look at the rankings, we have 0 Indian universities in the top 100.
Yeah.
We have 3 in the top 200. And despite the hue and cry globally on Indian research having issues with retractions and so on, we still haven't found a place in the top 100. And now with the entry of UNSW last week, the top 20 in the world coming to India, are we saying that it's time now to open up our doors because we can't build global institutions? Let's bring the global institutions to India.
I am on the record on this matter already. I've written about it. I've spoken about it. I think the best way for India to build our higher education system is to focus on Indian institutions. There is no, no other backdoor entry model here. I mean, I want to trace you to over 2,500 years ago. We had Nalanda, Takshashila, Vallabhi, and Vikramshila. These were Indian institutions which were global in their orientation from the very beginning. There were both faculty members and students who came from different parts of the world, and we provided civilizational leadership. I mean, Oxford, where I studied, is barely 800 years old. Harvard, where I studied as well, which is 400 years old, and Bologna is 900 years old. But Indian subcontinent had institutions long before all of them, and so we should focus on Indian institutions. Secondly, I think bringing all these institutions from here and there and everywhere is not the best way to deal with it. There are huge challenges. I'll be very candid with you, and we are a private, not-for-profit philanthropic university established due to a philanthropic contribution of our benefactor, Mr. Naveen Jindal, who put in more than 4,000 crores, nearly $500 million to set up our university. We are very fortunate that we have somebody like him. And our tuition fee is approximately 4 lakhs per annum as an average, which is considered an expensive one. Can you believe these international universities who are coming to India on an average are charging more than 10 to 12 lakhs per annum? So the entire financial model of an international university coming to India has the risk of creating greater inequalities and fundamentally undermining the constitutional vision of establishing an egalitarian society with greater access to education. In fact, our own goal ought to be that our private universities should be reducing their fee structure, creating more and more opportunities for scholarships, and in line with the public imagination of universities. I studied in Delhi University, where the tuition fee was approximately 500 rupees, and that's because taxpayers and the government funded it. And later I went to Oxford and Harvard, where I didn't spend even 1 rupee to go there because I got scholarships. So in a way, the biggest challenge of us is to focus on Indian universities and how we can make them affordable, how we can make them foster excellence, how we can build research, how we can create internationalization, how we can have experiential learning, how we can focus on building collaboration with industries and think tanks and research institutions, how we are able to instill a deeper sense of Indian imagination with a global perspective is what our focus ought to be. Frankly, we are not a Singapore or a Taipei or a Beijing or a Shanghai or a Dubai, where we operate like transactional model of institutions coming and going at will. For us, education is part of our civilizational heritage, and that is why other models wouldn't work here.
But Professor Raj, every event I go to, I hear everyone referencing Nalanda, Takshashila, Vallabhi, all the great institutions of the past. Yeah. But we can't live in the past, right? We can reference them, but we seem to not get the fact.
No, you'll be very surprised. We should actually. I'll tell you why. First of all, whatever we are talking today, we did it before. So you talk about global university, Nalanda was one.
Yes.
You talk about interdisciplinarity, Nalanda was one. You talk about liberal arts tradition, Nalanda was one. You talk about top faculty members from around the world, Nalanda was one. You talk about transparent admissions. Can you believe Nalanda and Takshashila had an admissions process where you actually come to the gates of these institutions and you have a debate and discuss, and who should be admitted is through that process. People would go to other institutions in other places to prepare themselves better to be admitted to these institutions. So in a way, the reason why we should recall these institutions is not to live in the past, but to build our future. That we had played a global leadership role in the not so distant past, that we had institutions of global excellence. We need to trace. We don't need to borrow from a Harvard or a Yale or a Stanford or an MIT. In fact, my own discovery, I should tell you this, I don't think I've ever told you, when I was at a college called University College in Oxford, where I was a Rhodes Scholar, and my master of that college, a man named Lord Butler, he would always start a speech, and he said, we are in the oldest college in the English-speaking world. My college was founded in the year 1249, and I was celebrating the 750th anniversary when I was a student. And I asked him, why did you say this? And he would say, he reminded me about Nalanda and Takshashila. So the West actually appreciates this leadership role more. I am perfectly comfortable with the fact that a bunch of foreign universities coming and doing some transactional, aspects of it, offer some executive education programs, do some things here and there. But don't expect that they will solve our problems.
Great. So, I understand the fact. The point of this fireside here was to see who is going to build India's Ivy League or India's top 100.
Well, first of all, we should not use the word Ivy League terminology. I think we have IPL, that's good enough. We have now Kabaddi leagues and so many other leagues. Those are actually better ones. Let's not use the word Ivy
So what
League.
is the term we should use?
Well, we should talk about excellence. I think that's a better word. That's
excellence?
Democratic, that's inclusive, that is participatory, that is global, that's interdisciplinary, that's everything. So let's focus on excellence. And by the way, I'll give you a better example. Again, from our own history. Have you ever wondered that today we are global leaders in certain aspects of science and technology led by the Indian Space Research Organization? Our scientists, we have spent approximately $75 million each to have successful missions to Mars and Moon. And that is the cost of what Hollywood movies are made, such as Interstellar and Martian. We have democratized excellence. We have led the world contributing to that excellence. Because you know what, Ashwin? One of the things that we have to realize is we are a country where there are deep inequalities and iniquities here. We need to embed our education, including our global education imagination. 50% of our students are on scholarship. We cannot do that in the model that we are. If I am charging 25 times less than Harvard University, offer the kind of infrastructure and education that is, infrastructure we are actually better than most universities around the world. And education, I would like to believe that we are as good as best in the world. And for that, we are charging 25 times lesser and offering 50% of a student scholarship. That is India for you. And that is important for us. Because for us, education is a social equalizer. It is an empowerment phenomenon. If you give good quality education, you change a generational aspiration. For us, education is not for the privileged alone. And that is why privileged institutions have a problem. Because for them, they don't see education as a part of a democratizing influence. And you talk about these other institutions, I don't want to name any one of them. These institutions are coming to India because they are not doing well abroad. The reality is the Chinese students have stopped coming to these institutions. They are having a budgetary problem. The budgetary problem that they are facing in their home countries are attempted to be met by us.
I agree.
I'm fine with it, but let's understand what they are doing.
But the point is, who is going to build India's top universities? Because it doesn't seem to be going. You are not able to convince me on this.
No. Well, let's understand that. So you are very proudly QS publishers every year, and in fact, our Prime Minister tweets that as well, that you have shown us that for the last decade, Indian institutions across the board, public and private, have begun to do well. Would you disagree?
Agree on that?
You are saying no.
We are doing well.
If you agree,
but how do we get
wait.
to the top 100?
No, wait. You agree that we are doing better. You also agree that every year we are doing better than before. You also agree that our public universities have begun to focus on presenting their data and information and contribution better. You agree that our private universities have, not all of them, but several of them have begun to do better than before. You agree on all of these things? And that is the only way to do this. First, we need to really once again underscore India's aspiration and ambition to pursue excellence. There is no way around. I mean, think about it. 100 years ago, if Dr. Vikram Sarabhai and Dr. Homi Bhabha, when they had options to be in Cambridge, they returned to India and laid the foundations of Indian science and technology and helped in establishing the Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru. When India had nothing, today we are among the world's leading economies. Why can't we pay attention to education more? The national education policy is one of the most progressive and transformative public policy initiatives ever undertaken, not just in the history of independent India, but also around the world. Why can't we focus on implementing the national education policy in both letter and spirit? Why can't we ensure that our premier institutions are given more and more and more support so that they can pursue the vision of institutional excellence? Those are the ways. And by the way, you should know this. This is not instant coffee. It takes hundreds of years to build excellence. I mean, if you look at all these institutions, I mean, I cannot tell you, do you know Harvard Law School began the 2 students in the inaugural class? Let's understand history a bit. Institutions take time. They need to get nurtured. They need to develop. But what we have, and that's what is remarkable about us, is that we have all these people here who are committed people, who are doing what they do every day with all the challenges that come with it. We need a more supportive ecosystem and an environment, and not to be constantly put under pressure that we need to somehow become an Ivy League. I mean, can you believe, I'll give you another data point. The resources that you need to create institutions are extraordinary. I mean, I should tell you this. Tsinghua University's library budget is more than several IIT's budgets put together. Are we thinking, do we have that kind of money? So in a way, when you think India, think about democracy, think about equity, think about inclusion. And that's why our Prime Minister constantly talks about Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Prayas. That's not, in some ways, that vision is in contradistinction to excellence, because excellence many a time is pursued with no regard to taking everybody together. But when we are in India, when we deal with 1.5 billion people, we need to balance the aspirations of the 1 billion Indians who are less than 35 years of age and the privileged few who may be able to receive education in India or abroad, where money does not have any limits.
Okay, I will agree with you at this point, but I will give you another fact here, sure. And this is true that you reference the National Education Policy, which aims to have our GER at 50% by 2035. And data shows that if we want to achieve this, we have to build approximately 14 new universities every week. So there is a challenge of capacity, which of course the foreign universities are coming in to support you. Now, why can't we work together with other institutions, with the foreign institutions, and build India's own, and because I can't find an alternate term, Ivy League.
Listen, again, I just want all of these people who are sitting here, especially the private universities, they all collaborate. They all partner with institutions around the world. We have 600 university partners across 85 countries. and 1,000 of our students go abroad every year, and we host 1,000 students from abroad every year on our campus. I'm not even talking about graduates going abroad for study. I'm talking about currently enrolled students going abroad for opportunities in the form of study abroad program, short-term study abroad program, exchange programs, and dual degree programs. So we are all in favor of internationalization and global engagement. The discussion that you initiated was, should brick and mortar campuses come to India and to establish it, and I've already proven with evidence. And by the way, don't be in any illusions. These institutions simply will not be able to deal with the capacity of India because their financial model is simply not workable. I've already told you. An expensive private university like us, which charges approximately 4 lakhs as tuition. And I have, Jitu Mishra, who's from Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. I have enormous respect for that institution. Pramad Sinha is a dear friend. Jitu, what is the tuition fee that you charge in ISB? No, tell. I want to know this. Everybody should know it. Everybody knows it. 30 lakhs per annum? 35 lakhs per annum? Look at it. Yes, they are a great institution. They should be here. They should cater to a certain group of individuals. But that's not India. And their situation is very different. We were fortunate to have a philanthropist like Mr. Jindal who put in those 4,000 crores so that we can keep our tuition fee less. But I am saying, with lesser tuition fee like ours, we still are unaffordable for a large number of Indians. So what to speak about these institutions whose average tuition fee is not less than 10 lakhs? If you really want to contribute to India, come to India and provide education and benchmark yourself with Delhi University, with our public universities. If you want to come to India, benchmark your tuition fee with our public universities.
But this discussion is not about international branch campuses. It is about how can we build a top 100 university.
I agree with you. So my point is,
and we have zero private university in the top 500.
I agree with you. But you look at the age of those institutions. See, you give statistical analysis. In the top 100 universities you mentioned, in fact, you guys used to do another ranking. Now you have stopped that ranking because I don't know why you did it. Why you stopped it?
I'm here independently, not as QS.
No. Your identity as QS cannot be escaped, okay? You are a QS man. I'll tell you what. QS used to publish a ranking which is called the top 100, they used to rank top universities less than 100, less than what?
50 years in age.
50 years in age. 150 under 50. And can you believe, we who do not feature among the top 500 universities in the world, we were 150 in that. So what is the important lesson there? The lesson is the existing model of measuring excellence that you keep talking about, and all of us are, is heavily weighed towards universities which are more than 50, 75 and 100 years old. And that's so unfair. As a country, we are 75 years old. And at the dawn of independence, we had 20 universities in India. Today, we have more than 1,200. Not fair. Give us some time and we will exceed. But then our difference is, we will exceed by taking everybody together. We will exceed by keeping it democratic and inclusive. We will exceed by making it affordable. We will exceed where we believe that excellence will also have to go hand in hand with affordability, accessibility, equity and inclusion.
All right. So, fine. I'm convinced.
You better be.
I'm convinced. But recently, I'll go back to what I said in the statement earlier.
Yeah.
India has created its own air quality framework. So are you saying that we need our own global ranking metrics because we can't compete with the
not at all. In fact, that's where I have a different view. I was not at all very excited about our own way of ranking institutions because, and by the way, this is actually a very interesting contradiction here. If you look at the government of India's own policy on institution of eminence, if you look at IOE, how they selected, they didn't use an Indian metrics. They used QS, Times Higher Education and Shanghai Jiatong rankings. Why did they do that? Because they were convinced that if you have to today measure excellence globally, You need to compete with the best in the world. If you look at India's effort to participate in Olympics, we don't have a separate standard. If you want to select Olympians, you don't use a separate standard because you need to decide whether you want to participate in it or not. And so that's why I again want to reiterate that we have to take a call in these matters. Maybe on some disciplines, for us, rankings are not important. Maybe in some areas, we need to build our capacities and contribute to that excellence internally grown. In some areas, we may. So that is why I'm saying, dealing with India, we are a very complex society. We are dealing with 1.5 billion people, and our decisions will inevitably be shaping that whole populace. And so, to answer your question, we should never be shy about pursuing excellence. We should never be shy about competing with the best, and we should not try to change our methodology. I mean, I'm not familiar with this air quality issue that you talked about. I would like to learn more about it. But the point is, if scientifically, if there is a case that this is the type of measurable standard that will create a healthy living of whatever kind, then we will adopt. In fact, we have adopted in many aspects. In public health, for example, we don't simply create our own metrics. If WHO has come up with a certain metrics, we recognize that that's part of the global metrics. Just as the World Bank's index on the business side, the QS THE index on the education side. In a way, what I'm trying to say is that we should engage and interrogate and discuss, and that's what you've been doing it. But let us not, misunderstand and confuse ourselves that what is our mission here. Taking 1.5 billion people together and fulfilling the aspirations of 1 billion plus people who are less than 35 years of age require a different imagination. You and I may be interested in rankings, but there are educators across India who run schools, colleges, universities, whose main goal is to cater to the aspirations of first generation learners. And that's a very different mission. You can't dismiss them. They are fulfilling a different objective. There are rural parts of India where colleges need to come into existence because there are no market-driven forces. There is no career services office there. But once they get to an institution, a generation changes. Education plays a very different objective. So my problem with many of these conversations is most of us don't understand India enough. India is not Delhi. India is not Mumbai. India is not Bengaluru. India is much more complex and diverse, and we need to be mindful of that. You and I may not be able to do anything about it, but let us accept that others who are contributing to it, they may not feature in the QS World Rankings, so be it.
Okay. So, I still have to get to the bottom of this with an outcome.
Okay.
When is it that we are going to see India break into the top 100? And do you think it's going to be a public institution or a private institution as a first step?
So let me say this. In fact, the better example for you would be, do you know that the modern research universities began in Germany? The idea of a Heidelberg University model. Today, whatever you are seeing in the United States is actually, its early origins is actually from Germany. Heidelberg and universities such as Hamburg and other top German universities were among the best in the world and continue to be so. You open your QS World Rankings, slowly they are not to be seen there. They are not around. Does that mean they have lost their quality of education? Does that mean that they have lowered their standards? Does that mean, in a way, I want you to make a distinction between our aspiration to be featured among the top 100, 200, 300, 500 in the world, which is an important aspiration. We should work towards fulfilling it. We should empower institutions so that they can achieve that. But let us not always measure quality and excellence through this metrics alone. There are many other ways of measuring excellence, and we should accept that. Second, we should also focus a lot more on investments and excellence driven by faculty in our institutions, and that require a more careful, calibrated approach towards who are the people who are driving the agenda of education. We need to take education more seriously. In fact, the bigger challenge that we should address is how are we dealing with our school education. If you look at Pratham reports, successive Pratham reports has demonstrated that the learning outcomes of our young children who are, let's say, 7th and 8th grade students, many of them, their learning outcomes are lesser than a 4th or 5th grade students. You cannot build a world-class higher education system without creating a truly, remarkable, compelling primary and secondary education system. They are all interconnected. But the NEP talks about all of this. So the only thing we should do is recommit ourselves to the national education policy and focus towards fulfilling the policy in letter and spirit. Rankings will come if you drive excellence.
That's a very powerful message. To conclude, I have a quick rapid fire. You can't make the long statements. It's a very 1-2 words. Okay.
You got a professor. We're used to making long statements.
I'm going to. So first is import prestige or build our own.
Of course, build our own.
All right. Autonomy or accountability first in this case?
Well, both are two sides of the same coin. You can't have autonomy without accountability. You need to earn autonomy, but you have to be also accountable.
Okay. And rankings, helping us or exposing us?
No, undoubtedly helping us. Undoubtedly.
Research depth or teaching scale?
Both. Again, two sides of the same coin. If you only want to do research, be in a think tank. And if you only want to do teaching, you shouldn't be in university system at all, because both teaching and research drive the agenda of education.
So foreign universities, and I know the answer, threat or trigger?
No, they are both words are not correct. They are a good collaborator. We should collaborate with them just as they collaborate.
Foreign universities in India.
Yes, collaborate. Okay. I have a limited, view about this, which is that the idea of a physical brick and mortar campuses. That's all. And by the way, the data, in fact, you should produce a report of the state of these institutions around the world, where they are operating, what they are doing, their governance models. And that will be a good exposure once you do that. You go deep into Dubai and Abu Dhabi, you go deep into Kuala Lumpur and Hong Kong and Singapore and other parts of the world, you will realize why what we are doing in the manner in which we are doing is not the best way for India.
Thank you so very much, Professor Raj. I think this is a great conversation. Do we have time for questions? Okay.
Mahesh will end up reporting all of this.
Don't ask me any ranking-related questions, please.
The way you talked of how much fee you paid as Delhi University student and how Jindal is charging. But my question is slightly different. You used only one name here, ISRO. ISRO is supplied, the best institution which supplies, people to ISRO is IIST, in Institute of Space Science Technology. It's not ranked in all the rankings. It's not ranked. The other thing is, most of the rankings, whatever you do, the student seems to be far better informed than what the rankings are, because the student is deciding exactly opposite of what the rankings is saying. What do you have to say for that?
Yeah, thank you, Mahesh. Listen, I've already answered this a bit, but I'll tell you this. One of the remarkable things about rankings, what it does is, it shows a mirror internally to an institution, and through data, it tells you how much of research that you're doing and pushes the boundaries within the institutional ecosystem that you ought to be doing better. The second thing it does is, it also creates an enabling environment for the faculty members to recognize that their work is also being measured in ways that may not have been happening in the past. The third thing it does is a kind of a peer group pressure, which I think it's a very important aspect of it. One of the things about Ivy League is that only, which is that a Harvard and a Yale and a Columbia and a UPenn, they feel like a sense of a peer group coming together. We need to develop subtle forms of peer group and competition, which is what ranking does. But as far as your other point about ISRO is concerned, and that is directly connected to NEP, and the 6% GDP investment is that fundamental science, not just here but anywhere in the world, has always been led by the government. We really need lot more resources. I do not believe that today, if the Harvards and the Yales and the Stanfords can claim to have some of the great Nobel laureates who contributed to that fundamental science, it's because of the fact that the US government put in millions and billions of dollars. We just partnered with the university called University of Tokyo, and can you believe, and that's why you talk about foreign universities. University of Tokyo is a public university, it's a national university, and they have 17 former prime ministers of Japan came from University of Tokyo, and they have 25 Nobel laureates there, and they are ranked among the top 30 in the world in your rankings, number 1 in Japan, typically top 5 in Asia. But the reason I want to mention them is their average tuition fee is $3,000. They charge lesser than most of our private universities, obviously because it is funded by the government. But the point I'm trying to say is that when you talk about equity and inclusion, a lot of effort is also provided by the government as well. So we need to significantly invest, and contribution, the GDP investment in education has to significantly increase, but we also need progressive private institutions with benefactors who are also able to look at education as the means of democratizing India and providing access, as opposed to using this as an opportunity to make more money. And that is why I am personally deeply wedded to the idea of not-for-profit governance, and we need people who are in education who are coming with both an altruistic and philanthropic mindset.
Thank you. Thank you
so
very much indeed. Let's put our hands together.
Have to, just a one short word. We didn't rehearse anything of this, and he told me he doesn't want to hear the questions till he comes up on stage. So a round of applause.